we'll get kick started. Hi everyone, I'm Lilia from Territory 3 Kiwi landing pad Reimagined. We help Kiwi founders who are growing and going global. And as part of that, we have this amazing webinar series with some cool guest speakers, usually every week. And today we've got Elise Hillam from MenuAid. Super excited to chat about her journey with MenuAid. It's kind of a fresh startup. I mean, you haven't been around for too long, right?
No, it's almost our 1 year anniversary in 2 weeks.
Yeah, 1 year, perfect.
Yeah.
Very quick journey so far for you. And you've just raised some capital and you're growing your team. So there's a lot going on. And you're also based in Christchurch, which is super cool down there. But yeah, I'd love to pass over to you to just do a bit of an intro, a bit of background. How did you get into entrepreneurship? Like what was your journey?
For sure. Thanks, Lilia. First of all, really nice to be here and chatting to you, and thanks everyone else for tuning in. Kia ora everyone. My name is Elise. I am the co-founder and co-CEO of MenuAid. So I'll touch on what MenuAid is in a little bit, but I guess my background is I hail originally from Warkworth, which is just north of Auckland. Sort of grew up rurally with my family, and then I knew at that stage that I had a passion and an interest in health and wellbeing, but I wasn't really too sure where or how, what that looked like. So originally I moved down to Dunedin to go and live the Scarfy dream down there. And I started studying physiotherapy, but really didn't enjoy it. I remember I did a day's work experience and I was like, this small confined room, touching people's knees, like this just isn't for me. And so I quickly pivoted to sport and exercise nutrition. So I did a Bachelor of Applied Science in Sport and Exercise Nutrition and really loved it. I really, really enjoyed it. But uni did not sort of set us up for life after uni. And so I kind of came out of that. And that's where I met Toby, who's my co-founder and partner. And so we met at the end of our first year, spent 4.5 years there, and both came out thinking, what are we going to do? And so thankfully, it was before COVID, so we just set sail and went traveling. We did 10 months of traveling nonstop, which was incredible. And the timing of it was like insane. It was very, very good. And throughout that whole time, we were sort of like bouncing ideas off each other and trying to think of what we can do when we come back. We're going to go and do the Kiwis in London thing, but thankfully, hindsight's a beautiful thing, but also we just decided that wasn't for us and decided to come back and get stuck into our careers here. So I, again, still feeling very lost on what I was going to do. Toby was in the tourism industry, and I actually got into construction management. So I started as a receptionist, and honestly, I got there because they were the first people to take me and I was super desperate for a job. And at this point, we just moved to Christchurch. So I had no idea. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know the city. Like it was a real fresh start. And so started off as a receptionist there, really like found it okay doing what I was doing, but it wasn't really that challenging. So said to my manager, I just want to do what everyone else is doing. And then COVID hit, and it was actually throughout that time that I was lucky enough to be able to be studying construction management. And so that meant that when we came back from COVID, whilst my receptionist role was kind of made redundant and was not really relevant, I had been able to prove that I could be a project manager. So which was great, and got into that and was really enjoying it. I just like learning new things, so it was going well, but quite quickly realized after about 1.5 years that my passion just didn't really lie here. And always had this like nutrition something in the back of my head, but I didn't really know what to do. Tobes is like a serial entrepreneur, and that he's like constantly coming up with new awesome ideas and challenging the status quo. So I also had nutritionist and Toby in the back of my head thinking, how does this work? And then at the start of last year, Toby and I came up with the idea of MenuAid, which was purely born selfishly on our own frustration of being like, I can't believe we're 26 and we have got dinner time fatigue. Like we were just sick of deciding what to eat for dinner. I was a nutritionist and I was sick of it. Like it was not good. So we thought, if we've got this problem, then many others do. So I guess that was the start of it.
Oh, awesome. And so I know so you and Toby are both co-founders and co-CEOs, but I know Toby also has another startup, Mutu. So did you start that at a similar time, or it was before? And how did you guys manage that? Like, even though he had another project on the go?
Yeah, that's been a really interesting journey for us, and is something that we have like kind of just got to the other side of, which is great.
Yeah.
But essentially he started Mutu, he started working on it in lockdown, like seriously working on it, and then his job was made redundant. So that's when he went full time, which was awesome. And so he was doing Mutu for 2 years before we started MenuAid, which was really good. And MenuAid has gained hugely from that because of the learnings that he's had. And so, but yeah, when we started working on MenuAid, it was interesting, like trying to balance out the time, but I was also working full time. So we would sort of do like our other lives 9 to 5, and then, you know, in the mornings and in the evenings, you were just doing what you could for MenuAid. Then it came to the point where I remember we would have like really clear conversations throughout the year that we were working on MenuAid, that when this thing launches, one of us is going to have to go full time. And at that point, Mutu was going really well. And so it was like, Toby was just kind of looking at me like, this is on you. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. And so we launched. My plan was always to launch in September, and then I thought that, you know, we'd work on it for a while and I would be able to resign from my job sort of March the next year. But we launched in September. Our goal was to get 1,000 users by the end of a year, and we had 1,000 users in our first week. So it was at that point that I was like, okay, I think I can resign. So I resigned from my job and finished up at the end of last year. And then throughout that, so I was working on it full time with our CTO, Will, and Toby was part time with Mutu. And we were sitting next to each other the whole day, so we were always bouncing ideas off each other, but it was definitely a lot for Toby to manage. And then when it came to raising capital, it created quite a few intense conversations around, of course, investors want Toby's full commitment, but he'd already received investment for Mutu, so it was like a bit of murky water that we had to navigate through, but ultimately we were able to, which was awesome. And Toby's now brought another CEO for Mutu, and he's jumped in to be my co-CEO for MenuAid. So he's just on the board for Mutu now, which is
awesome.
great.
Yeah. More focus on MenuAid.
Yeah, for sure.
Yes. No, that's awesome. In terms of the whole raising capital. So obviously, you know, your startup has moved very, very fast. At what, like, how many months in were you when you realized, you know, you need to raise some capital to keep growing? And how, you know, what did that process look like? Were you looking for local investors or overseas VCs? And curious, how that all came together.
Yeah, for sure. So we started off, we kind of knew before we launched that we were going to have to raise pretty quickly, because MenuAid is super scalable and globally, and that was very much our intention from the start. And so we knew that we just need intensive capital behind us to make it happen, but we definitely underestimated how much we needed. So we started within a couple of weeks of MenuAid launching. As soon as we had any traction, it was like, okay, let's just start talking to investors. So we went down the typical angel investor, kind of looking for a 250 first pre-seed raise, like just almost because it was like, that's what Toby did for Mutu, and it kind of, you know, we're like 250 would be helpful, definitely. But I think we definitely underestimated how much we needed. And so from pretty much October until December, we were just going around touring, trying to get angel investment. We spoke to every angel investor in like company group in the country, and they all said no except for AIM. Were the only ones that said, yeah, we could be interested, but it's kind of Christmas, so like come and talk to us in a little bit. And it was really bad timing, except we had one angel called Simon Rowland who came along, and he just said like, I just want to invest, I believe in you guys, and I'm in regardless. And we were like, thank God we needed that before Christmas, because
honestly, at Christmas time you kind of want to avoid usually for any that sort of stuff.
Anything,
just wants to relax and
exactly. And they don't talk to you from like the start of December until the end of January. So it really put us on the back burner. But it actually worked out really well, because then the start of January we got accepted into the Sprout Agritech Accelerator program, and so it meant that we started that at the end of January. And part of the Sprout Accelerator is that there's an investment at the end, a possible investment at the end. So at this stage we were still like trying to weed more money out of AIM and like get that 250 round closed out. But they were definitely making us work for it, and it was incredibly time consuming. And we're sort of having like more and more and more traction, and we realized that actually we just want to make this thing grow, so we definitely need more capital. So kind of revisited the game plan, and our Sprout mentors really helped us with this, and said, like, if you guys are thinking global, you need to raise more. So thankfully Sprout agreed and came on board, and they closed out our round with $1 million investment. So
awesome.
So
handy, you know, that they
I know, so it was like, but that still took a while. I mean, so we were technically raising from like October last year until I think we closed the deal in May. So it was a long time.
Definitely. And so you got the capital, and what have you done with it? You know, so I know you've been expanding your team. You've just got an office space, I believe, in Christchurch. So what does your growth look like? You know, since then?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a real change going from having we had our founding team of 6, but most people were working on it part-time, and then to having now we've got 15 people in our team, which is just like insane. So I guess it's been, what have we been spending it on? A lot of it is just like employing people and getting them up to scratch and getting them on the journey. Our office has been a huge improvement in our life, having the space for us to call our own. And then now a lot of it is just going into marketing and customer insights. Like, we are obsessed with being a customer-led technology product, and so we're spending a whole heap of time, like it's 50% of my time and 100% of Janine's time, diving into customer insights, talking to them, figuring out what they want, and then building a platform that works for them. So there's definitely been huge spend there, and then the huge cost in developing our product as well. But
I can imagine, because I know I've read, you know, you do a fair bit of AI behind the scenes on the products. So can you talk a little bit about that, and, you know, what exactly are you trying to do with that? So, you know,
for sure. I call myself a non-technical co-founder, so I can give it like a high level. But essentially, our end goal is to get to know you better than you know yourself, from like exactly what you want to eat for dinner, exactly what you've already got in the cupboard, and then exactly what you need to buy at the supermarket. So this has huge implications for, like, cost of living is ridiculous at the moment, and so it can save people, like, before even having this heavy AI integration, we're already halving people's grocery bills. So it's just incredible the impact we can have there, the food waste impact, the time. Like, we want to get you from like dinner inspiration to having your groceries delivered in 3 minutes. And so there's a whole lot of tech behind it, essentially, that can see like trends of what you're buying and pick up what's on special at the supermarket and all sorts of things. So essentially think of it as like your little shopping assistant in your pocket.
That's pretty awesome. And solve so many different things within that.
For sure.
Cool. In terms of you know, pricing model for, you know, say someone like me were to sign up, what kind of, you know, costs would I be looking at?
So you get the first 2 weeks for free to just come in and check it out and see if you like it, and then from there it's only $4 a week. So our goal is to make it super accessible for everyone, and the $4 that you spend, as I said, we're halving some people's grocery bills, so you won't notice it. So just $4.
Amazing. And do you see, you know, in terms of that pricing structure, is that what you think you will continue with the next while, or are there other models you know, that you might bring in? And I guess if you've got any thoughts around that.
For sure. It's a huge like focus for us at the moment, is trying to refine this model. So right now it's like pay $4 and you get full access, don't pay and you don't get anything. And so we're trying to work out like freemium and what that looks like, or if we have different tiers. We're also working with the supermarkets. We're having really good commercial conversations with both of them around receiving a percentage of the user's cart as a revenue stream. And ultimately the dream is to get all the revenue from the supermarkets and then give everyone free access to MenuAid. We're not quite there yet, but definitely, like, if we can clip that ticket, then that will really help. So
awesome. I mean, I can definitely picture it being something in every household that, you know, it sort of automatically tells you what to cook, you know, what you need to buy, and then it buys it for you. And just, like a whole automated kitchen system.
Exactly, I know, and we know that like the kids have got sport on Tuesday, so you need a fast meal that night and all those sorts of things. So yeah, there's a big pipeline of dreams.
Cool. No, that's awesome. With scaling, what challenges have you faced?
So we definitely are still scaling and definitely are still facing challenges. I think like from a personal perspective, the balance of like leaving no stone left unturned, having every conversation, and picking up every opportunity, but also like spreading yourself thin. So I'm still navigating that. I really hate saying no, so I often like Toby's learnt quite early on to, especially with Mutu, like there's only so many things you can do in your time, and so that's been really interesting. And also the evolution of my role and our roles like within the company, we've gone from being incredibly hands-on doing absolutely everything to now sort of being like a managerial role, which is super strange and is something that's very new to my life. So I think that's been a challenge, and otherwise, touch wood, it's been going good.
No, that's awesome. I mean, always better if it's a smooth journey, but there always are different hurdles along the way, and I guess is being able to push through and overcome and learn and keep growing, and as the founder journey is
yes.
but no, that's awesome. So when you were hiring staff, what are you looking for, and what kind of staff have you been hiring, and are you still looking for staff to hire?
Yeah, we've just closed out our final hire, which is such a relief because we've been looking for a senior developer since March. So it's been a very time-consuming process, but what we've been looking for is definitely cultural fit first. We had like great debate and discussion with our mentors around whether you do like the technical test interview first and then you do the cultural interview or what. So we landed on skills you can learn, but culture is a lot harder to train. So we hire cultural first. So things we're looking for is like, are they innovative? Are they self-learners? Are they courageous? Are they fizzed about MenuAid and like fully believe in our idea and what we're trying to do? And do we want to sit next to them 40 hours a week? Like just a real sense check. And then so cultural first and foremost. And then definitely they have to understand like the startup scene and that things change all the time, and you have to be like fast on your feet and okay with things changing day to day.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely different. Yeah, very different working in a startup versus working in some, like a typical corporate or
definitely, yeah.
So you've just raised $1 million. How much runway is that giving you, and are you going to have to start raising again anytime soon, or are you what is your revenue looking like? Is it good? Like
for sure.
The question is like, are you going to have to raise again at some point soon?
Yeah, is the answer. Yeah, so our burn rate is definitely a lot higher than our revenue, and I think it will be for a long time to come, which is proving to be very difficult when buying a house, actually, as a side note, because as two directors of a startup that the bank wants 3 years of profitability, I'm like, startups don't have profitability for a very long time. So that's just a fun side note. But we are actually have already started conversations with potential VCs that we're looking at for the next raise. Our runway gets us through currently until May next year, which is crazy.
We'll come along quite quickly.
It'll come along really quick, and we know that Christmas is a real exactly. Yeah, so pretty much Q1 we'll be raising again, but we're already starting those conversations now to figure out if that's where we need to be then, where do we need to be right now. So that's been super helpful as well with aligning the team. We have our all hands every second week, and essentially that's just been like checking in with the key metrics, like the stake that we've put in the ground, and then going back from there. So, and all our OKRs and things like that are based off that. So that's been really, really helpful.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely like a team effort when it comes to early stage startups. You need
for sure
aware of what's going on and help each other grow and such. And curious in terms of being based in Christchurch. Now I know Christchurch has an amazing startup community. We've held a couple of meetups. It's so vibrant. It's like out of all the cities, I think it's one of the strongest, I would say. And it just feels like such a good community. And so I'm curious, like, how have you found it? And, you know, do you get quite a bit of support from other founders in your local area? And yeah, what's it like being, I guess, in Christchurch versus, you know, other cities? Because I know you lived up above Auckland for a while and you did a bit of travel. And yeah, so how do you find it down there?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm definitely super biased because this is where I'm at, but I really love the Christchurch startup scene, and definitely thankful for you guys for helping build that culture as well. It's been awesome. But we've got like a few pretty incredible people pioneering the way for us down here, which makes the path really supportive, which is awesome. We've got, you know, Max from Lumen, who was on here before, and there's like Partly and Komodo and all these people who are just crushing it, Piper Vision, like Atik, all these incredible founders who are so accessible because Christchurch really is like a small tight-knit city. And you can genuinely reach out to anyone and anyone will support you, which is awesome. We've got like a Slack group, which is just a Christchurch founders group, and there's people flicking questions on there all the time. Like everyone is willing to put their hand up. I mean, yesterday I posted in there, we've just migrated to HubSpot, which is like a behemoth. And so I just posted like, does anyone know, can anyone give me some tips on HubSpot? Or like Chris is coming around on Tuesday afternoon to just sit down and walk me through it. It's like that sort of support has just been so helpful. It means that you don't have to just, you know, trudge your own way through. You've got like everyone's helping each other, and it's like not competitive, it's not secretive or anything. It's just very open and transparent, which we're very, very grateful for. Yeah, big advocate.
Amazing. You know, you know, usually startup communities do have a little bit of, you know, that competition kind of vibe, and you know, maybe up here in Auckland there is a little bit more of that.
Yeah,
it just seems like everyone's just, you know, friendly and friends down there. Incredible. Do love visiting down there and catching up with all the founders every couple of months.
Yeah, you have to come back.
I know. Maybe in the next month or two. I think got to plan out the next couple of months of travel this week.
Love it.
In your space, do you have any competitors? What are the trends going on, and yeah, sort of like what is happening in the space that you operate in terms of with the MenuAid?
Yeah, for sure. We've definitely got competitors. Most of them are global, which has been actually really helpful because there's heaps that we can learn from them. And so we just watch them kind of as closely as we can. I noticed that one of them's actually stopped sending me their emails, which is quite funny. But yeah, there's a couple in like local, but I think the power of MenuAid is definitely the investment that we have behind us and the team that we have behind us. Like everyone is motoring and this thing is moving it's got some great momentum behind it, which is awesome. In terms of like trends that are happening in our space, there's a lot of websites out there that can prescribe you a meal plan, but it'll be like, are you keto or are you like low carb? Are you wanting, you know, like they kind of put you in a bucket. And like a classic example is Emails, which is an American company, and they've got like 32 different meal plans that you can choose from, and it's like really boring essentially. Whereas with like what we see the trend going, and even like it's like Spotify does it, Netflix does it, the personalization is so key. So that's the trend that we are like very strongly going on, is that like we're going to become the Spotify for food, and so like super personalized and yeah, moving down that way. So yeah.
Cool. I mean, it kind of seems like the kind of thing like Amazon, you know, might be into that space. Are you aware of, you know, things that they are working on in the space?
Yeah, nothing directly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they just went and bought one of the competitors and went there. So, you know, we'll start knocking on their doors quite soon, which will be exciting. But yeah, we've actually got some really good connections into Amazon kind of. So yeah, we'll explore that path definitely.
And is that, you know, something you might see yourself doing in the next couple of years, is in terms of an exit strategy, is selling to a big company like that?
I think my ideal is to be with MenuAid for like the next 8 to 10 years. I definitely want to, like Toby and I have full intentions to take this thing global, like with us along the ride as well. We'd love for like a huge, you know, Samsung to come and buy us and put MenuAid on all their fridges and things, but I mean that would be amazing. name a high price and I might consider it, but I think that it's definitely a strategy for much further down the line though.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think that's a good way to view it, is like, that it's something that you want to grow and you're going to put your passion into and put, everything that you can into growing it. And then, the big companies, they will come along. They will see you growing and they will want a part of it. And, even if it's not buying you out, it could be like maybe they invest and then
exactly
for them, or, things like that. So definitely a lot of options to do down that track. In terms of your journey so far, what would you say has been the hardest or the most difficult thing that you've come across?
I think a couple of things. Like, hiring was super interesting and quite a challenging time. For our customer success role, we had over 200 applicants, which was crazy. It was like, where do you even start? And like, saying no to people, as I said earlier, I don't love it. So that was really hard. And so I think hiring has been super interesting. And also just, like, as I mentioned before, figuring out what my role is and kind of that evolution. Because MenuAid's gone a lot faster than I anticipated. So I thought I would have had a little bit more time to kind of like catch my breath. But I wouldn't change anything. I just think that it's been a really interesting few challenges for sure.
Yeah, cool. And in terms of the managerial side of things, do you have like an advisory board or mentors or people that you go to on a regular basis for support on that?
So we've had different mentors throughout the stages, and I think that's been really helpful, as well as finding mentors for the right stage. We've got, like, Sprout gave us mentors when we did the accelerator, which was awesome, and then we've kind of like kept in contact with them, but not on such a formal agreement, which has been really great. And then right now I'm doing, some of you may know of the Abroad program, which was supported by Angel Association NZ. So has been leading it. Essentially, it's like a founder wellbeing program, but a lot of the focus is around like becoming a coach and like how you can be a good manager and have difficult conversations. And so I've been kind of doing that for the last 2 months, which has been really, really interesting. And through that, every second week I have a one-on-one coaching session with like a coach of mine, which has been awesome. I've been able to it's been really, really helpful actually. So that's been good.
And I guess a follow-on question from that is, in terms of founder burnout, have you had times where everything just feels like it's falling apart or too difficult, and how do you manage just like keeping yourself well? Because I know that is it can sound easy to some, but it can be a big task when you're in the middle of growing a startup. It's very stressful.
Yeah, for sure. There's been a couple that like jumped to mind. One was when we thought the Sprout investment was gonna like not come through. That was incredibly stressful, and we were also in isolation at the time, so it was like we couldn't just like go blow our steam out somewhere. So a huge thing for like, it's really helpful Toby and I being on the journey together, because like we're literally next to each other in the meeting, and no one knows me better than Toby and vice versa. So it really helps, like he can see when I'm about to crack and vice versa. And so being able to just like blurt it all out to him really, really helps. And also just ensuring that I maintain like balance in my life, in terms of like I have taken up bouldering, which seems to be the most like common founder thing at the moment, to take up bouldering. But I have done that, and so I like make it a rule that I have to go there 3 times a week, because that's really good for me to just like forget about things. And so trying to manage that and stay on top of it and recognize it before it gets really bad.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, I could mention, it is quite interesting with you and Toby being a couple, and I know some people don't do that, it's going to cause too problems. I mean, it sounds like you guys, you have the way that you work together, you've kind of nailed it. I guess you've been together for quite a while, and you've done a few things together, and I mean, have you ever how
how does that go?
You're like, oh no, like
yeah, for sure. I think there was like, we're kind of just at a really good place now. It's not been bad, but it's been like so ever changing, especially with like kind of us both working full-time, part-time, and me full-time, and now him coming in. Like, it's been a real evolution. But what has been key for us is just like very upfront and honest communication. And yeah, like just saying you're really annoying me right now, and or like I don't like that, or and one thing, I was talking to another couple that work together, and she was saying like I just say to him, would you talk to any other staff member like this, or like, and vice versa, which is a really good way to look at it, because when you know that person so well, you're probably going to say something that maybe you shouldn't, because you're like, well,
Yeah.
we've got a different relationship. So she's like, I just said to him, like, would you talk to any other staff member like that? And so that's a good way to call each other out when you're being idiots. But most of the time it's really, really fun. And it's just like I said, no one knows you better than each other. And raising was great because you're going around together, rather than when Toby was trying to raise for Mutu, it was like, see you never, so, still on the journey very much.
You guys are doing incredible. So I do admire what you've been able to put together. Just so for those listening, we are at the halfway mark, which means if you have any questions, now is the time to chuck those in the Q&A box. I can see a couple have come through already. We've got a question here from Alison. Could you tell us one or two things angel investors said that was part of their no, and was it useful feedback that led to change or doing your pitch differently?
For sure. So I guess the first thing for them was it's just too early. So we were like a month in, and we're a $4 per week like SaaS service, so it could change like any second. The numbers could change, and so from that we realized that we need like we should start looking at longer subscriptions, because that helps increase our LTV and churn and things like that. So they gave us heaps of feedback on that. And also that our churn rate was too high. They're like, just come back when your churn rate's lower. So we started implementing like free, because originally we didn't have a free trial. So people would come in, pay $4 and then like not really understand. So they'd just leave.
Yeah.
And so, things like that was definitely, but just too early and too high a churn rate. And also people are still a little bit scared of SaaS, especially B2C, because it can be so fluctuating. So
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think that's the best way to learn is, when someone says no, is ask them like, what's the reason why, and then you can think of that and kind of apply that in your next moves.
For sure.
Do it. We've got a question. I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, sorry. Who can we contact if we are interested in the next round? Hey.
Oh, come and knock on my door, please. Connect on LinkedIn, or my email is elise@menuaid.co.nz. So would love to chat.
Definitely. Just another note, any questions, now's the time to chuck those in the Q&A box. In the meantime, I'm just looking back at our notes that I've put together out. You kind of already touched. We had the question like, if you started from scratch, like what would you do differently? And I think you mentioned, you are pretty happy with the way that you did it, or you wouldn't change too much. Is that you'd still say that?
Yeah, I think so. But I think I did think on that a little bit as well, and I think I underestimated how hard it was to measure the data, which this is just very relevant to us right now going in for our next raise, because investors want to see like the progress and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, I can tell you, like in my head, again, non-technical co-founder, I thought like I could tell you exactly what everyone does on the platform. I could tell you how many people click the countdown button. I could tell you how many people put, I thought it'd be super easy to just have this magical dashboard that tells me everything that every customer does. But that's not the case. And it's like our developers don't love building out dashboards of metrics. Like it's not that sexy. And so it's like kind of a little bit of not a battle, but it's just like an ongoing thing for us, making sure that we are measuring or have like a full-time data analyst that can just be obsessed with the numbers, and I can say to them, hey, what is the perfect customer journey, or like what is that one action that every converted customer does that we need to get everyone else to do, like those sorts of trends. I would just love to be able to get into the nitty-gritty with, but so that's probably what I would change.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, there's always new ways of doing dashboards and things coming out, so the perfect one might arrive at some point.
Hopefully.
A question here from Steve. Have you thought about international approaches? And actually, that's a good point. I should have mentioned that one. Is like, are you offering this overseas, and what are your plans? Yeah, in terms of going international.
Yeah. So we actually have a user in the States and a user in Australia, which is like completely random. I don't know how, but we just chat to them and ask them how they're finding it. But it's very much right now targeted for New Zealand because we just want to refine our product market fit here. And then once we know that this is like super sticky, pour money in here and that equals X, then that's when we're going to go overseas. So our plan is to start exploring global markets end of next year, like Q3, Q4. And we were originally going to jump to Australia first because it kind of just seems like the comfortable next pop over. But then we were challenged with that quite heavily by the Greg Foran, the ex-CEO of Walmart. Yeah, he was like, nah, don't waste your time. Like Australia's going to cost you as much as it would if you go to the States, but the States is a way bigger market, and you've got supermarkets over there like Walmart who they've got 50% of their revenue is online, whereas in New Zealand it's 8%. So like they are very much a lot further along the lines in terms of wanting products and solutions like MenuAid. So yeah, we just have to make sure that we're better and stronger than the competition in the States and then boost over there. So that is definitely the plan.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine like I just came back from the States and all the products are, they're different names, they're different brands, things you've never heard of before. So I can imagine it can be a bit of a task to sort of integrate, all these different products into what you're saying for people to buy, for making their meals.
Definitely. And the like cultures are so different, like the recipes are different, what they're wanting from a meal is so different. Like a lot of people in America like heat and eat type things, and they have smaller kitchens or they don't have gardens out the back and it also changes state to state as well. So it's going to be a massive behemoth, but I'm very excited to go and check it all out. So
I do. I love the States in different ways. It's very New but cool. A question here from Tim. Can you spill a bit more on your fundraising efforts, team negotiation, valuation, etc.? Because there's not a lot of consumer platform marketplace players in New Zealand. Cool. So maybe, how did you figure out your valuation?
That was a lot that came from like Sprout sort of led us and supported us through that. And I think what was really important with the Sprout investment for us was that we had already had a really strong established relationship. So through the accelerator, like they had seen us at our best and and worst, and they knew us like inside out, and vice versa as well. We knew the whole Sprout team. We knew exactly who was like making these decisions and helping us. So Sprout came to us with a valuation, and then we were able to sit down with them and really pick it apart. I honestly couldn't tell you the intricacies of it, but it was essentially like we mapped out our whole capital strategy and where we saw our exit in 8 years, and then kind of worked back on like what we need to raise at each stage and then what the valuation needs to be. And it was really beneficial because it meant that we could see like what our equity stakes were at different stages. So that was super helpful to not just focus on raise number one, but actually like the whole journey.
Cool.
That was really, really good. I'm trying to think if there's another part of that question that I've missed. I feel like
I mean, you've talked a bit on fundraising efforts. So it sounds like you went and reached out to a lot of angel investors, and you got one at the end, and then you did Sprout.
We also talked to like every New Zealand VC as well, and again all of them said no because it was just too early. But it means that now when we're going for this VC round, like very much we've already got the relationship with them, which is so good. And you see them at different events and things throughout. So even if you think it's too early to go and like for them to be in your round, still just go and ask them like, hey, well, next round I'm going to come to you, so what do you need? And like definitely establish those relationships as early as possible is my advice, because it saves you heaps of time and heaps of like backpedaling down the line. So
that's that would advice actually. To sort of build on those relationships. I think New Zealand is so small. It's important to, be in a good relationship with everyone.
It's so important. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, I guess the other part of the question was how there's not a lot of consumer platform marketplace startups in New Zealand. So yeah, I mean, are there any in the space that that you kind of chat to, or where have you taken insight from in terms of products like this?
Yeah, we've spoken with Max from Lumen quite a bit. Thankful that he's just moved back here after spending 5 years in the States building a 60 million user platform, which is insane. And so yeah, we've been talking to him heaps as well, especially they use a lot of AI in their system, so which has been fantastic. So he's been a really good technical but also non-technical advisor for us. I guess there isn't a whole lot of B2C marketplaces around, like he said, but I think just leaning on the ones that are around, and you definitely face VCs. Like we've had 2 VCs come back to us already and say, hey, we won't invest in the next round because we're strictly B2B, and that's fine. Like, just know that, and that's all good. You've just got to go and prove to the ones that are willing to invest in you that you're worth investing in.
Especially there's a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, if you're looking to expand over there, then maybe that could be a good way to see what what investors you could find over there for the next round, perhaps.
For sure. And like their biggest obsession as well is that, like, how well do you know your customer? Because even if you've got like thousands of customers, you still need to know them just as well as if you're like a one-to-one, more B2B. And so that's every single person is like, who are you serving? How are you serving them? Like, how are you talking to them? So yeah, definitely put that at the forefront.
Yeah, definitely. I've got a question here from Anonymous. What did you get your churn rate to in the end, and how many customers do you have?
Yeah, there's no end to churn rate. The end is far gone. It was at the worst, it was at 45%, which is like horrific. And then we're now sitting down, I think our stats for August were 8.3, which has been great. But our goal is to get it to 2% by December. And so yeah, that's been fascinating figuring that out. And then our current user count, I think we've got a user base of just over 9,000, and of active users we've got just about 1,500. So that's
When you say what you mean, the 9,000, they're all paying but they're not actively using it?
No, so 9,000 is like, that's right, you can see the churn. So we've had 9,000 people come in, and then of that we've got 1,500 still like paying and using MenuAid. So
that's cool. Yeah, and you mentioned you might be changing the model in terms of like from weekly to longer subscriptions. So is that kind of that might affect things as well?
Definitely, I think that will play a huge part in churn as well. So we've got a big focus at the moment as a churn prevention strategy. So it's how do we get it down as fast as possible, essentially, so we don't churn to death.
Good phrase. We've got up to 15 minutes left, so if anyone has any more questions, do chuck them in the Q&A box now, so you can get to those. What does, say the next up until Christmas, what does that look like for you? So obviously, you've just hired a bunch of staff. Is it all just quite hands-on for the next wee while?
Yeah, now it's like really getting stuck in and ensuring that we are turning the needle. Our like main objectives for the next, I've actually got them literally written right in front of me, but our main objectives are showing traction and progressing towards product market fit. Always focusing on delighting our MenuAiders, so how that looks, and building a great internal culture. That's like our 3 objectives for the next 3 months. And along with that is just proving the traction is so important for us, so that we're set up well to raise early next year.
True. Question from me: what kind of marketing channels have you been using, and what do you find works best? Yeah,
so Dan is our growth marketer, and he is really good at digital marketing, so we've been exploring that quite a bit. PR has been fundamental. Like before we raised or anything like that, we had a database of over 6,000, and that was all PR. Like we literally didn't spend anything on marketing. So that's been awesome. Toby is an absolute hustler with PR. But yeah, now it's like SEO. We've just about to launch a brand new website, which will really help with that. Again, I know high level, I understand it. But yeah, a lot of digital marketing. And then I think once we establish, like what a good CAC is on digital, then we'll start to explore other ones. But I honestly don't think that we'll do like traditional marketing until the next raise.
And then there's only so much budget you can spend within each quarter, and so
exactly.
Just had a question pop through from Steve. Have you looked at partnerships with Pack and Save or Countdown to embed in their presence platforms?
Yes, so we're having they've kind of been on the journey with us from the start. I think it was 3 days after we launched, Countdown made contact, which was pretty awesome, and said this is a great offer. But we've been treading carefully because we know that the old duopoly can be quite snaky. But now we've got in a really good position where they want to integrate with us so that MenuAiders can plan their meals, fill out their trolley, and then hit what supermarket they want to go to, and it fills out their trolley instantly for them. So that will be huge, and that will also help us identify what users have got at home and all that sort of stuff. So we're having really good conversations with them currently, which is fantastic.
Awesome. And I think that's definitely the way to go, is to integrate with different supermarkets. And
the
idea of kind of like eventually being able to sort of clip the ticket on obviously if someone's spending it at Countdown versus Pack and Save, then that saves marketing dollars for Countdown, and so it would make sense.
Exactly.
Kind of share the clips there.
And it's what all our competitors are doing overseas as well. It's just New Zealanders, like the supermarkets are dealing with like 25-year-old technology, so they don't have APIs that we can just call on. Like they've got to build it all. So that's been we're just like trying to push them along to do
that. Question here from Matthew. At the start of your journey, did you develop the web or app before getting investment? And did you pitch the concept to initial VCs, or did you already have a fully functioning system?
So we were fully functioning. We had launched, so we just have a website. And we were up and running. So that was really good because you could just like walk them through and show them exactly what it was. We're also really lucky because MenuAid really cost us nothing to get started. We had our team working for Sweat Equity. Our developer built it all. So and like you have to cook the recipes, but that was just Toby and I's dinners for the next wee while. So it wasn't too expensive for us to get up and running. So we didn't need like intensive capital before we launched. So that definitely made it easier.
Awesome. Comment from Steve. You could have premium with Farah and boutique markets. So it could be.
I love it. Yeah, we definitely are exploring the idea of getting like local markets and things involved, and having like a map of where you can go and get all your ingredients from and things like that.
True. Because there's different types of shoppers. Some people, they want to go for just the cheapest, and they're not too concerned about like exact quality of like one loaf of bread versus another loaf of bread. But then some people are very that they want the best of the best.
Exactly.
Sort of
I like it.
That's awesome. Cool. I guess we've come to the end of our webinar, and if anyone is listening and they are interested in jumping on the next round, they can contact you on LinkedIn or email, and we will have recorded this webinar, and so I'll be publishing this on YouTube, LinkedIn, website, everything, even Spotify now, which is super cool, and within the next couple of hours. So if you know someone that was meaning to watch but couldn't, you can send it their way later today. But otherwise, a big thank you to Elise for sharing your story with us, and I'm super excited to see where you're going to be in like 6 months, because you're moving so fast, and it's just watching your journey.
Thank you so much, and nice to see Claire here as well. She's a user, so it's nice to see you here, Claire. Thanks for tuning in.
Amazing. Cool. Thanks so much everyone for watching. We'll catch you on the next one next week.